So in this video, I want to wrap up the section on series. So I want to look at some questions which involve combinations of arithmetic and geometric series together. So we get a question that looks a bit like this. So it says find the value of, and then it's got that notation there, which can look a bit intimidating and not at all like the questions we've looked at so far. So this notation here, the sigma, that large letter there, sigma, it means the sum. So it means the sum between the value of n is 0 and n is 12 of, and then the rest of it. So this part here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually separate those out piece by piece and just explain what's going on. So we're going to have a little table here. So we're going to have the values of n here. And then I'm going to stick in the values of some of the other things just to show what's going on. So we're going to have here n. N is going to be 0, then 1, then 2, then 3. That should be sufficient to explain what's happening. And then we're going to look at 1.4 to the power of n. So when n is 0, 1.4 to the power of 0 is just going to be 1. Then we're going to have 1.4 to the power of 1, which is just going to be 1.4. Then we're going to have 1.4 squared, and then 1.4 cubed. So by looking at that, we should be able to see that that is a geometric progression, starting off with the first term of 1, and then increasing by 1.4 each time. So in this one, we've got a geometric series where a is 1 and the common ratio is 1.4. If we look at the next part, 6n, 6n, when n is 0, 6 times 0 would just be 0. And then when n is 1, 6 times 1 would be 6. Then when n is 2, 6 times 2 would be 12. And then when n is 3 would be 18. So we can see there in that second part, the 6n, what we've got there is an arithmetic series with the first term of 0 and then the common difference of 6. And in the other part, the minus 3, that is just going to be minus 3 every single time. So what we can do is we can treat those parts separately. So we can look at the geometric series with, let me write down what we've got here. So a is equal to 1 and r is equal to 1.4. Then here in the arithmetic one, we've got a is equal to 0 and d is equal to 6. So we can work out the sums. So using the sum of the, how many terms have we got here? So it's from n is 0 to 12. So it's going to be the sum of 13 terms, because we've got when n is 0, then up to 12. And it's going to equal, for this is for the geometric one, it's going to be a 1 minus r to the power of n over 1 minus r. And so in that case, it's going to be a is 1, and then 1 minus 1.4 to the power of 13 over 1 minus 1.4. So that would be for the sum there. Then for the arithmetic one, the sum of 13 terms in the arithmetic series is just going to be n over 2, and then a, well, actually 2a plus n minus 1 times d. So that is going to be 13 over 2, then 2 times 0, so I can drop that bit out. N minus 1 is going to be 12, and then times 6. So I can do that, and then the last part, minus 3, is just going to be minus 3 times 13. So I can work out what all of those are, and then add them up, and then that's going to give me the result for the entire sum. So I'm going to get, when I do the, let's do the 1 minus 1.4 to the power of 13. So 1 minus 1.4 to the power of 13. That gives me that, and then I need to divide that by negative 0.4. That gives me 195.9. And then I need to do 12 times 6 divided by 2, and then times 13. 12 times 6 divided by 2 times 13. So that gives me 468. And then I need to do 13 times 3. And then that's minus 39. So that's going to give my entire sum then 195.9 plus 468 minus 39. And that equals 624.9. So that would be the result of my sum. And that would be the end of that question. Okay, so I'm going to look at another question. This one says, find the sum of all integers between 200 and 800 that are not divisible by 6. So we're going to need to do this in a couple of ways. So first of all, what I'm going to do is try to find the sum of the integers between 200 and 800. So that is just going to be an arithmetic sequence, starting with 200, 201, 202, 203, and so on, up until 800. So that is going to be a simple arithmetic sequence where A is going to equal 200, L is going to equal 800, and D is going to be 1. So I can use the sum for that. So I'm going to have between 200 and 800, there's going to be 601 terms. So N is going to be 601 because I've got to include the 200 and also the 800. So the sum of those 601 terms is going to equal N over 2 and then A plus L. So it's going to be 601 divided by 2 and then 200 plus 800. So that is therefore going to be, so it's 1,000, so it's 500 times 601. So that's 300,500. So that would be the sum of all of the integers between 200 and 800 inclusive. Now what I need to do next is I need to work out the ones which are divisible by 6 and then take those away from the total. So to work out which numbers in the 6 times table is the first one, so I'm going to need to do, so if I did 200 divided by 6, I can see that's 33 1/3. So 33 times by 6 is 198. So the first number that's going to be between 200 and 800 divided by 6 is going to be 6 more than that. It's going to be 204. So the 6 times table between 200 and 800 is going to start with 204, then it's going to go 210, then it's going to go 216, and so on up to, and then what is 800? So 800 divided by 6 is 133, so 133 times 6 is 798. So to work out how many numbers we have in our series between 204 and 798, we can use the formula for the nth term, which is A plus n minus 1 D. So in this series, we know that A is 204, and we know that D is 6, and we know that UN is 798. So using that, we should be able to work out how many terms we've got. So we could say that 798 is equal to 204 n minus 1 plus n minus 1 times 6. So I can say 798 is equal to 204 plus 6n minus 6. So I can say that would be 198. So I could say 798 is equal to 198 plus 6n. Take 198 from both sides, it's going to be 600. So 6n is equal to 600. So n is going to be 100. So now I need to do my sum of my terms. So sum of 100 terms, and that is going to be using the same formula as we had just now. So that's going to be n over 2. And then we can just do A plus L, since we know what the first and the last terms are. So it's going to be 100 over 2, and then 204 plus 798. So that is going to be 204 plus 798 and then multiplied by 50. So that's 50,100. Okay, so that means that the sum of all of the numbers which are in the 6 times table between 200 and 800 is 50,100. We already worked out that the sum of all of the numbers between 200 and 800 was 300,500. So the answer to the question is going to be the 3,500 take away the 50,100. So the answer equals 300,500 take away 50,100, which is going to give me 250,400. That's my answer there. Okay, so that's the end of my video. If you can please subscribe for updates when more videos are available. If you want anything videos on any specific topics, then please let me know in the comments. And if you visit www.qualitytutoring.net, then you can find questions there in the database, which I showed you on a couple of videos. And you can also hire tutoring one-to-one if you want anything specific. So it's possible to engage me as a private tutor for just one-to-one lessons on any topics that you want. So thank you very much for watching, and see you again.